Hello everybody, my name is Myst and welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back to my channel. Either way, it's great to see you. Today we're looking at the poster child of the NECA Pacific Rim figure line, Knifehead. Specifically, the Wave 1 version of the pointy-snouted menace. Released in 2013, Knifehead was the first kaiju from Pacific Rim to step off the big screen and rock any kaiju collector's shelves with an imposing presence and incredibly unique design. With this being the first official video in the figure review series, I might as well lay out the structure that I'm going to be going through in the review. First, I'll start by going through details, then paint applications, articulation, accuracy, if the figure is meant to be a one-to-one copy of a character from any sort of media, and finally, if the price that I paid was worth it. So each figure will come to a total out of 5 points. Without further ado, let's get this review underway. So beginning with detail, starting at the head here, Knifehead's goblin shark-like rostrum is undoubtedly what makes this monster stand out not just among the other kaiju from the film, but also from almost any other kaiju in cinema. The details are exquisite, with little pockmarks lining every inch of the stabby snout, and you can even see Knifey's nostrils up here. Moving down, the detail continues in an excellent sculpt that is unfortunately muddled just a little bit with the paint application, but regardless, I don't think it takes away from how gorgeous the sculpt looks overall. The eyes stand out wonderfully, not getting lost to their piercing blue colors. And the mouth has a pretty well done sculpt for the teeth and tongue here, although I have to be honest that the tongue looks quite awkward on this figure and prevents the mouth from fully closing, which I'm honestly not a fan of. Why give it the ability to close its mouth if it can't actually do that? The gums here are well detailed with lots of wrinkling and whatnot, and I'd also like to compliment NECA on how well they were able to hide the hinges that operate the mouth on the figure, even if the mouth can't close. Moving further down on the figure, we can see that a lot of this really nice scaly pattern is going on here that continues down the arms and legs, with the leathery texture being the rest of Knifehead's body. I think that this really enhances the alien and kind of sea creature-y look on this guy. The chest here has an appropriately spiky tip on it, which gradually transitions down to the tiny secondary arms here. And speaking of arms, the big arms on this figure are really well done, and I love the detail on them. The hole between the forearm is a really neat design choice here as well. The hands look fantastic, with the size of them being huge and unique and, once again, very alien feeling. The claws are well done and spiky, with the same being said on the little hands, detailed and pointy. These little arms here are well detailed, although they admittedly do not move, which I'll touch on a little bit later in the articulation segment. The legs of this figure are, again, quite well detailed, with the scoots on the thighs being an interesting but welcome addition to the various skin textures that Knifehead has going on. The thunder thighs that lead down to the small feet, very kaiju-like, topped with pointy claws. And turning the figure around, we're greeted with this odd shell-like thing, which, although strange, is riddled with details. And speaking of tails, Knifehead's tail here is excellent looking with a fun spade-shaped tip. Detail absolutely earns a point. Focusing on the paint next, I'm going to overlook any blemishes in this review because I actually got this figure secondhand and I can't tell if something is a factory mistake or if it's something that the seller did unintentionally to the figure. The dark gray paint here on Knifehead looks really cool, and it's the figure's primary color, with the yellow markings littering the rest of its body, and the shell on his back is a faded brown color, and as mentioned before, the pointy-headed horror has these bright blue eyes. Overall, I think the paint is well done and also earns a full point. As for Knifehead's articulation, it's practical yet simple. We're going to get a hinge at the jaw here so it can open and close, as mentioned before. Swivels at the shoulders so that they can go up and down. Hinges at the elbow. And what I believe is a ball joint at the thighs, although admittedly I'm not really sure. They move in and out a little bit, as well as back and forth. Knifehead also has a bend at the knees here, which is a hinge. It doesn't have a wide range of posability, but it does give the figure that extra little bit of kind of things that you can do with it to make it look cool in a pose, so that's always welcome, of course. The tail also has a bendy wire in it, which I both do and don't like. On one hand, it allows for tons of movement and posability, but on the other, these wires are notorious for breaking, and I feel like this one is really close to that point. It actually got stuck in a pose recently, and that's when I decided to just pose it in a straight way like this and leave it. I also have mixed feelings about the arm articulation. The up and down movement for the figure is certainly serviceable, however, I would have preferred more of a range of motion, similar to their Trespasser figure released in Wave 3. Then again, I also like how close to the body Knifehead's arms are here. It feels a lot less awkward, somehow, you know? Compared to the Trespasser's wide arm stance, which makes him take up a lot of room and almost feel like he's trying to do some kind of meme-like T-pose. This is more of a nitpick though, and I still think that the articulation on this figure deserves a full point. NECA did a great job also at accurately representing how Knifehead looks, from the colors, the teeth, and the gums. It's all really well done, and definitely reflects the version in the movie almost to a T. So, solid point there as well. And now for my overall thoughts and a discussion about the price. I paid $50 for this figure, which is actually less than the $60 price point that it originally released for. So, in my eyes, this is a win, actually. And yeah, it was totally worth it. However, if you manage to find the later released Battle Damaged Knifehead or the Toys R Us exclusive Deluxe Knifehead, I'd recommend picking those up as they have a little bit more to offer in terms of articulation and also their size comparisons with the other Pacific Rim figures, since this Knifehead is quite a lot smaller than almost all the others. But I've got to warn you about those other two figures I mentioned. They are way more expensive and harder to find. Speaking of the prices, if you're a fan of my channel, this should come as no surprise that I am quite clearly a collector. From the number of characters featured in my different series like Kamada Kun's Adventures, Mesozoic Bedroom, and even Experiment 666, there are plenty of figures in them, from spiders to dinosaurs, kaiju, sea life, and pretty much anything in between. The reason I bring all of this up is because for a while I've wanted to talk about the collecting community and the prices of these figures, and I'm going to use a minute or two of this video to explain that and expand on it. I set out at the beginning of this year to acquire various figures from the first Pacific Rim movie, and it surprised me just how expensive these things were, and it was not a surprise in the good way.
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby... Oh my goodness! Squidward!
I could make an entire hour-long rant covering this subject, but I find it incredibly frustrating how much people charge for these things in the kaiju collecting community, and Pacific Rim isn't even the worst of it. To keep things to the point, I understand wanting to get your money back when you sell something. Really, I do. You want to get your money back because you paid for the thing that you're selling. I do the exact same thing. But to charge up to sometimes 5 times the price of what you actually paid originally is just stupid. People hide behind the excuse a lot of, oh, but this is rare. And like, guess what? I don't really care if it's rare or not. It's a piece of plastic, and it will never be worth the $3,000 you want for it. Charging so much for plastic action figures is just ridiculous. It prevents people, whether collectors or children or whoever, from just enjoying these toys as much as you did, if not more. And it's very disheartening to think about completing my collection at the price of hundreds of dollars, because quite frankly, that just isn't worth it. Regardless, thank you all for watching this video. I have more coming on the way soon. Let me know in the comments what you think. Like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if you didn't, do nothing if you don't want to, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye!